Hello and welcome to YNWA Transfer News, your ultimate source for all Liverpool FC transfer news. Our first news is this. Michael Ballack gives verdict on Florian Wirtz's Liverpool transfer as damning assessment made. Former Bayern Munich and Chelsea star Michael Ballack has said he can understand Florian Wirtz's decision to leave his homeland and join Liverpool this summer. The 22-year-old signed for the Reds for a fee of up $116 million, 115 femmers, during the transfer window, briefly becoming the club's record signing, before he was eclipsed by Alexander Isak a few weeks later. While Wirtz hasn't made an immediate impression in the Premier League, fans have high expectations for a player chased by Europe's biggest clubs. Bayern was among them, with the sense in May that the German champions would win the race to sign the midfielder. Instead, somewhat surprisingly, Wirtz was convinced by Arne Slot and Liverpool to turn his back on the Bundesliga. It's a choice made by several high-profile names this summer, including Jeremy Frimpong, Hugo Ekitike, Piero Hincapié, Jamie Gittens, Benjamin Sesko, Xavi Simons, and Nick Woltemade. That is an alarming trend in Ballack's eyes, who feels the Bundesliga can no longer afford to compete with the Premier League. Of course, English clubs pay insane amounts, the former midfielder told Bild. But even for Wirtz, Bayern were prepared to put together a package worth up to $100 million. And as for Nick Woltemade, that's a different case. Bayern has a financial budget. The club has excelled for decades by staying out of debt and growing big. That's why I understand why Bayern decided not to pay more than $55 million for Woltemade, because the player wasn't worth more to them. But fundamentally, I'm concerned about something else. Let's take Wirtz as an example. Does it make sense for him and his development to play in the Bundesliga for Bayern for another 2 or 3 years? Of course, he wins championships there. But is the Bundesliga still a challenge for him at the highest level? No, because the Bundesliga was overtaken by the Premier League years ago. That's the reality. That's why it's generally no longer as attractive for the absolute top players. That's why changes are needed. Like Wirtz, Ballack opted to leave German soccer when he swapped Bayern Munich for Chelsea in 2006 and went on to make 167 appearances for the Blues. Meanwhile, Wirtz has faced criticism in Germany following recent performances for the national side against Slovakia and Northern Ireland. That's despite scoring a sublime free kick against the latter. A maiden Premier League goal or assist on Sunday would help silence any critics in the first weeks of his Liverpool career. Federico Chiesa's response to Liverpool's snub speaks volumes after new transfer offer. Liverpool forward Federico Chiesa remains determined to play at the top level after turning down a fresh chance to leave this summer. Chiesa only arrived at Anfield last year as the sole senior signing of an almost silent first summer window for Arne Slot. The Italian struggled to make an impact in his first campaign, though, playing just 14 times in all competitions. In fact, he started just one Premier League game all season as Slot rotated the options around him to cruise to their 20th top-flight title. It was probably expected then that Chiesa would be linked with an exit before his second season in England got underway, and that was before a record-breaking summer spree which saw more competition arrive in the attacking areas. Slot had spoken glowingly of the Italy international, however, who came off the bench to score the winner in the opening game of their Premier League defense. "I see a totally different Federico now than from large parts of last season," Slot said. "It is completely normal because he missed out on the whole preseason and then came into a Premier League rhythm in terms of the amount of games and in terms of intensity. If he is more available, then he has more chances to impact our results or his playing time. But then it is about him staying as fit as he is at the moment." He was also used as a late substitute against Newcastle and Arsenal before the first international break of the season. However, he was given a swift reality check on his place in the Liverpool pecking order after he was left out of Slot's squad for the Champions League group stage. That was in favor of 17-year-old wonder kid Rio Ngumoha, whose impact off the bench was clearly deemed more impressive after his winner at Newcastle. Slot's decision came 2 days after the summer window was closed, with Chiesa already turning down the chance to return to Serie A on loan before the deadline. But with the Turkish window still open, there was an avenue for Chiesa to get away from Anfield in what is a World Cup year. Gazzetta dello Sport have revealed that isn't an option for him either, though. It is instead reported that Chiesa is determined to win over Slot at Liverpool and continue to compete with the game's best players at one of the world's best clubs. That determination was clear to see with Liverpool's record signing Alexander Isak's first training session on Merseyside. In footage of Wednesday's session, shared by the club, Chiesa can be seen whipping in a number of teasing crosses for the Swedish superstar to smash home if he can build up a connection with Isak quickly. He could yet find himself with an important, albeit limited role with the champions. It would have been easy to pick up his ball and go home, but for now Chiesa appears insistent he is ready for the fight. It was embarrassing how we handled Liverpool transfer saga. But we didn't love what they did. Liverpool broke their club record to sign Alexander Isak on transfer deadline day after seeing the Sweden international help force an exit from Newcastle United. But throughout the summer, the Magpies had been adamant that the striker was not for sale. At one point, it looked like the Reds might have been made to wait in their efforts to sign the 25-year-old, only for Newcastle to soften their public stance towards the end of the transfer window. Consequently, Liverpool were successful in their efforts to sign Isak, but prior to the Reds concluding a deal for the striker, supporters were reminded of the club's previous record signing of Virgil van Dijk. The Dutchman joined Liverpool in a 75 million deal from Southampton in January 2018. But his move only came after the Reds had been forced to end interest in the centre-back the previous summer, as they were accused of making an illegal approach to Van Dijk. In an official statement at the time, the club said, "Liverpool Football Club would like to put on record our regret over recent media speculation regarding Southampton Football Club and player transfers between the two clubs. We apologize to the owner, board of directors, and fans of Southampton for any misunderstanding regarding Virgil van Dijk. We respect Southampton's position and can confirm we have ended any interest in the player." That did not stop Liverpool from revisiting their interest the following window and landing Van Dijk in a 75 million deal. Looking back on the transfer saga, former Southampton CEO Martin Semmens has now admitted he considers it embarrassing how the Saints handled the situation at the time. Lifting the lid on how Liverpool's conduct had angered Southampton, he also conceded that forcing Van Dijk to stay put at St. Mary's backfired on the club. "Virgil van Dijk was a big one for us," he recalled on TalkSport. "We treated him in a different way and said, 'You can't go.' It didn't work. Well, for us, we didn't get him back on our side. Virgil was fantastic. In my opinion, he trained at 75% and played at 75% and was still the best player in the team, if not the league. He didn't cause us any problems. He never said a single bad word to anyone, but he wanted to go, and it wasn't effective for us to keep the player. We kept him until January. It wasn't good for the squad or the environment, but to be clear, Virgil never said one negative word to anybody. We felt, at the time, we could get more if he stayed. He'd had a bad injury. I think he'd been out for 6 to 9 months, and we felt that he owed us, which is embarrassing now I think back to it. There was also some contact from Liverpool we didn't love. At that time, probably a little. More for the morals. He had already met Klopp before he told us. But in the end, he did a very good job for us, and we sold him for a good price. Alexander Isak can follow in footsteps of ex-Liverpool star who made Sir Alex Ferguson absolutely furious. Alexander Isak could make his Liverpool debut this weekend and may become the second Swedish player in Reds history. The international break is finally coming to an end, and Liverpool fans have every reason to feel excited. Alexander Isak joined Liverpool on deadline day and has featured for Sweden in the international break after missing the start of Newcastle United's season. Isak only played 18 minutes for Sweden against Kosovo, but is now looking to ramp up his preparations for the weekend. Isak could make his Liverpool debut against Burnley, though he may only feature from the bench. When Isak does make his Liverpool debut, he will become just the second Swedish player to represent the Reds at senior level, following on from Glenn Hyson. Glenn Hyson became an instant Liverpool fan. Favorite, you have to go all the way back to 1989 for Liverpool's last Swedish signing. Defender Glenn Hyson joined the Reds from Fiorentina, but a battle over his signature ended with him becoming an instant Anfield favorite. Hyson had starred for IFK Göteborg and PSV Eindhoven before reuniting with his former Göteborg boss Sven-Göran Eriksson at Fiorentina in 1987. Just 2 years later, Hyson was on the move and was all set for a move to England, but not with Liverpool. Manchester United teed up a deal to sign Hyson, and Sir Alex Ferguson believed the Swedish defender was on his way to Old Trafford. As noted by the Liverpool Echo, United couldn't agree on a fee, and Ferguson traveled to Italy alongside chairman Martin Edwards in order to conclude the deal in person. Ferguson was in for a nasty surprise, though, as he arrived in Florence to find out that Hyson had instead agreed to join bitter rivals Liverpool in a stunning hijack. United moved on to signing Gary Pallister from Middlesbrough instead, as Ferguson admitted on United's official website. Any player snubbing United to join Liverpool will immediately become an Anfield favorite, but Hyson took it to another level. Hyson won the Man of the Match award on his competitive debut against Arsenal in the 1989 Charity Shield, instantly endearing himself to Liverpool fans even more than he already had by rejecting United. Hyson only spent 3 years at Anfield, but helped Liverpool win the old First Division title in 1990 before heading back to Sweden with gas. Isak is already a Liverpool favorite after forcing his way out of Newcastle to join the Reds, but he still faces a challenge to emulate Hyson's Liverpool introduction. Glenn Hyson, on snubbing Manchester United for Liverpool. Hyson spoke to The Athletic about the situation in 2020 and admitted that he actually rejected United on 2 occasions. Hyson chose reuniting with Eriksson at Fiorentina over joining United in 1987, and then chose Liverpool over the Red Devils 2 years later. Ferguson was furious at missing out on Hyson, but the Swede suggested that Liverpool were simply the better move for his career. Hyson added that Liverpool fans like his decision to reject United quite a lot, still seemingly receiving love for that decision to this day. "I actually turned down Ferguson twice," said Hyson. "The first time was after we won the UEFA Cup in '87. Sven had just taken over at Fiorentina. He called me and said, 'Don't sign anything, I want you here.' I said no to Ferguson and Martin Edwards, United's former chairman, again in '89. I went to Manchester and spoke to them at a house in Hale. I know Ferguson was furious that I ended up choosing Liverpool, but I never made him any promises. United were a mid-table team. It wasn't the United of Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, and David Beckham. Liverpool were top of the table, so it wasn't that difficult. Kenny Dalglish, Secretary Peter Robinson, and Chairman John Smith came to Gothenburg to see me. I knew Kenny as a player, but when I met Kenny as a person, I knew that I wanted to play for him. What a fantastic human being. To say I was a Liverpool player who turned down Manchester United twice. Liverpool fans like that quite a lot," he added. Liverpool boss Arne Slot has already decided when new summer signing will make his first appearance. Liverpool fans are excited to see their new summer signings in action after the international break. Liverpool will look to carry on where they left off when they return to action this weekend, after the international break. The Reds sit top of the table after 3 matches and are the only remaining team in the division with a 100% win record. They are the early favorites to win the title for the 2nd season in a row and resume the campaign full of confidence, having broken the British transfer record twice in the same summer in a flamboyant month of spending. Liverpool are already reaping the benefit of Hugo Ekitike, who has hit the ground running in fine fashion at Anfield, while they've also seen glimpses of promise from the likes of Jeremy Frimpong, Milos Kerkez, and Florian Wirtz in the early weeks of the campaign. However, there's still more debuts to be handed out in the coming weeks, and while most of the focus will be on 125 millimeters striker Alexander Isak, there's still plenty looking forward to seeing Italian international Giovanni Leoni in action for the first time after his 26-mile move from Parma. When will Giovanni Leoni make his debut? According to The Telegraph, Giovanni Leoni is penciled in for his Liverpool debut against Southampton later this month. It's a game which sees the Premier League champions go toe-to-toe with last season's basement club as the Reds aim to go all the way in the Carabao Cup after the heartbreak of losing to Newcastle United at Wembley Stadium in the final of last term's edition. The fixture comes in the middle of a hectic schedule in September. Arne Slot's side take on Burnley this weekend before taking on Atletico Madrid in their Champions League opener. The Southampton match comes just 3 days after the Merseyside derby against Everton at Anfield and is sandwiched between another Premier League clash against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park just 4 days after that. What to expect from Giovanni Leoni? Giovanni Leoni is a highly rated 18-year-old defender who recently earned his first call-up into Italy's senior squad during the most recent international break. It's difficult to miss Leoni due to his dominant physical presence on the pitch. He's 195 centimeters in height, 6'5", and is renowned for his great aerial qualities and his ability to dominate opposition attackers in physical duels. Leoni played 17 matches in total for Parma last season, scoring once and was a near ever-present in the final weeks of the campaign, as Emilia-Romagna-based outfit avoided relegation by finishing 16th in their first term back in Serie A after promotion. The teenage defender has played 7 times at under-19 level and has ambitions of breaking into the setup on a regular basis before next summer's World Cup. However, his first senior call-up this month didn't go entirely to plan, as he was left out of the matchday squad on both occasions. During games against Estonia and Israel. Italy, who are now managed by Gennaro Gattuso, are second in their qualification group, 6 points behind leaders Norway with a game in hand, and currently look likely to finish in a playoff position unless there's a sudden improvement in fortunes. Thank you for watching. Like and comment, subscribe.